It's Terichim, page 68. You might have thought to say that since the deposited item is intact, it is returned to the owner as is, and the chametz is intact. It was not lost or stolen. La b'shusei koi. Kamash malan that it is b'shusei. It is in your possession, even though you're getting an object of chametz, whatever it is, that it's complete, and you're giving it back complete to the goy after Pesach. You're not allowed to take it. It's considered in your shoes, and it's a problem for you to have it. Animals subject to the royal tax, it is subject to the laws of Bechor or not. What's Be'ema Sarnuna? That you have to give the government taxes on your animal. It says the king would collect 10% of all newborn animals and produce and produce grown. So the king would charge 10%. So now you have a bechoyer, seemingly you need to give it to the Beis HaMikdash, to the kohen, but now 10% of it is not really yours. So we know when we learned the Gemara about this, we discussed this concept of bechorim. It says, remember that if the animal was owned 50% by a goy, 50% by a Jew, it wasn't so clear that the Jew had to give maser or bechor, the bechor to the kohen, because it's not 100% his. So over here, the animal is officially 10% belongs to the royal, to the king. So the Gemara says, whenever the Jewish owner is able to divert the Gentile, divest the Gentile of his claim by paying him money, meaning giving the goy the 10% that the animal is worth, he can give the Gentile money in lieu of his portion in the animal. We have no doubt that the animal is subject to the laws of Bechor because the Gentile does not own his share of the animal, right? Because he pays off the 10%. When do we have a question? When the Jew cannot divest the Gentile of his claim by paying him money.
So the goy only wants the animal.
What is the law? No, the goy wants, buying him out. We're buying him out. You invest or divest, take him out.
So why would he not be able to divest?
Because he doesn't have money.
Oh, the Jew doesn't have the money to pay off the king. I got it.
So now what do?
That's
He still has obligation to the kohen.
For the Behor, right.
Okay. But it's not 100% his animal because he didn't pay off when he pays off the king, fine. But he doesn't pay off the king, what do? Amar Lehu, so Rava answers, Ptua. He said he's exempt from the laws of Bechor. He can keep the animal to himself. So the Gemara says, but once it was taught in a Baita, it is subject to the laws of Bechor, that he is obligated. So the answers also the Matzah Misalik. There, the Baita refers to a case where he can divest the Gentile of its claim by paying him money. Since the Gentile has no share in the animal, the firstborn is subject to the laws of Bechor. So Rava is not, there's no challenge to Rava because Rava says it's potter when he can pay off the goy. When he can pay off the goy, then you become obligated to give Maisa. Some say some say that Rava regardless says you don't have to pay because of the debt to the government. However, when it comes to a dough, he says the dough is subject to the royal tax. And this is so even though the Jew cannot divest the Gentile of his claim by paying him money. My timer.
Is that because it's easily separated?
Let's see. It says in my time. Why we're differentiating between a doe and the animal? Why there's more? It says be'ema is like color, Israel is like color. So because an animal has publicity, and doe does not have publicity. Well, so what does it mean? It says in number 9, a voice, a publicity. According to biblical law, the doe should be exempt from challah because of the king's share in it. So according to biblical law, you patur. However, there is a concern that challah is not separated. An onlooker, right, the bystander, the erroneous eye, what we say, who might not be aware of the king's share in the dough, since the king usually collects his share while the produce is in the grain stage, might think that the owner was consuming his dough without separating the challah. To avoid this misimpression, the sages required challah to be taken in all circumstances. Okay, so that's the simple. It says it says like this. It says, what if you own an animal, 10% has to go to the government. There's two opinions, two versions of what Rava said. Version number 1, Rava says if you pay off the king, you divested the king his share, you have to give. You have to give the animal to the kohen. If you did not, you don't have to give it. You are patur. You are exempt from the mitzvah of bechor.
Okay.
Is another version. The Rava says no. If the government has 10% in your animal, you patur. You don't have to give bechor.
Okay.
Begin with. But it comes to the laws of challah. He says challah, you have to give even if you already paid the government 10%. You pay the government.
You have to pay the government 10%?
No, I'm sorry. You have to pay the government 10%. That's the law.
From the dough that you have?
Yeah. You have to, assuming you have to give 10%. Okay? So even if you did not pay, even if you don't have the money to pay the government the 10%, or you don't have the grain, whatever it is, you still have to give challah. So it's completely opposite. In case of challah and bechor. Bechor, we see there's even opinion that he doesn't have to pay. Just for the fact that the government has 10% share in it, he doesn't have to give bechor. When it comes to challah, even if he paid off the government, he still has to give the laws, the 10%. Even if he didn't pay, he still has to give.
Why?
So he said, why? So he said, because animal, it's known, a guy gives birth to, the guy has a bechor, it has a publicity, people know about it. So no one will suspect him for not doing the mitzvah of bechor. And if he doesn't do the mitzvah, they understand why he doesn't do it. But in challah, there is no publicity. So if a guy comes to your house, he doesn't see that you're giving challah, he's thinking in his mind that you're not doing a fashat challah, you're not doing the mitzvah. So in order to avoid because biblically you don't have to give, rabbinically you have to give. So in order to avoid the misimpression, that people will have the wrong impression, they said you have to give.
Thank you.
Regardless, you would have to do a fashat challah, even if you separated even if you didn't have the money to pay off the 10% to the government. A goy entered your courtyard of a Jew with chametz dough in his hand on Pesach. Right, big no. The Jew is not obligated to dispose of it. If but if the Gentile deposited it with the Jew,
Dispose it.
no, deposited. He gave a deposit, like he
said dispose.
He gave here's a loaf of bread, kid.
over here.
Oh, deposit. Oh, yeah. The first one.
No, it's yeah.
Second
Zogu klevar. He is obligated to dispose of it, to burn it. He has to burn it. Yiched loy bais. If the Jew designated a room for the chametz, he said, you go to that room. Ein zoku klevar. He is not obligated to remove it. Shene'emar loy motze. It should not be found. Now Gemara will question it. The Gemara questions the citation of the verse at the end of the Baita. Maikoma, what is the Baita saying? Why does it cite a pasuk that apparently requires one to dispose of the chametz, following a ruling stating that the person is not obligated to dispose of it? One second, loy matzim, and you gotta get rid of it. And we just said that he's allowed to designate a room for the goy. Because it says loy matzim. What does it mean? And you're allowing it to go into a room. That means it is imotze. It's there. It's in that room. So the Gemara answers, Amar Rav Papa Reishakai. When the pasuk says lo imotze, it speaks about the Reisha, the beginning of the bite. V'achikomo. If kido etzloi, if the Gentile deposited the chametz with the Jew, zokuk lavoya. He is obligated to dispose of it. Why? Because it says lo imotze. Shenemar lo imotze. Ravashi lo imasef. Ravashi says no. Lo imotze speaks about the end of the baita. V'achikomo yichid lo bayis. If the Jew designated a room for the chametz, ein zokuk lavoya. He's not obligated to dispose of it. Shenemar lo imotze uvasteichem. Because it says it shall not be found in your homes. Ve'alav didehu, and this chametz is not considered his because he did not accept responsibility for it. The nochi kame ayel leveisa the nafshi. The nochi ki kame ayel leveisa the nafshi kame ayel. For when the Gentile brings the chametz into the house, it is into his own house that he brings, because he designated the room for him, so it's as if it's his own house. Without the Jew accepting,
the room is the goy's house.
it becomes the goy's house because he designates the room to him.
Okay.
It's as if he's renting it, or it's some type
Even
of
if you have a
ownership.
guest, let's say you have a guest in your own house, you want to get something from the room, you don't just walk in,
Right.
say, "Oh, it's my house, I can walk into the room."
Right.
No, why? Because in some shape or form, it becomes his daladamis. Becomes his domain. You have to be considerate of his him being there. And even if he's not there, you would ask him, "Listen, do you mind if I walk into the room and get something?"
Right.
So in this case, when the goy deposits chametz with the Jew, you're not allowed to take it unless you tell him, "This is your room. You can do whatever you want. I'm designating this room for you." It seems like it would be okay according to this. Lememra the schirus kanya. Does this mean to say that a rental agreement affects an acquisition of the rented property? That's really, it becomes you're renting him the room. Is it considered as if he acquired the room by renting it? You're renting a car. It's considered like you own the car.
At this time that you.
Maybe it says that. Now we'll learn it in a Mishnah that to the contrary. There's a Mishnah that says, "Av b'mokim shamu." This is a Mishnah in Avodah Zarah. It says, "Av b'mokim shamu la'askir." Even in a place where the sages said that it is permitted to rent houses to idolaters, lo elevis dira amru. They didn't say you're allowed to permit them for a place of dwelling. Why? Because because the idolaters bring idols into it. So if it brings idols into it, you're not allowed to give them to rent to them a house. If today, Baruch Hashem, there's no idols, you don't have to worry. You can
What
rent.
about if you had a Catholic church?
The idols that today, even the certain images they're using are not per se. They don't even know what they're wearing.
It's not really idol.
Yeah, but how
India,
do-
though, it could be a problem.
Or Thailand.
No, every place. In Brazil, they have idols, a lot of idols. And you have a house, you rent to go to the house.
No, but that's their part of the church, right? That's not the Stam idols. No,
They
it's
have
like
all
Baal.
kinds
It's
of
not like
idols.
Baal. You know, remember Baal from?
Yeah.
It's not Baal. It's the Ashken.
Yeah, but they have many
it's
saints and they have
So
statues.
so now it all depends of whether rent affect acquisition or does not. If renting it means that they own it now, then seemingly you'll be okay to rent it to them. But if not, that means you still own it,
Then it's a problem.
and then you have idols in your house.
Ay,
So let's see. When the idolater brings an idol to the house, and we say that if you think that a rental agreement affects an acquisition, then he is bringing it to his own house. Obviously, then a rented property remains under the ownership of the landlord. The Gemara, and if it's remaining under if it's still yours, then he's bringing idols to your house. Shani Och, the Gemara concedes that a rental agreement does not affect an acquisition. Nevertheless, it is permitted to keep a Gentile's chametz in such a situation. Shani Och, for the merciful one used to use the terminology, it shall not be found mi shemotzi biyotcha chametz, that is found in your hand. Okay, so the prohibition applies to chametz that is found in your hand. Excluded, therefore, is this chametz because it is not found in your hand. Abuda says in the name of Rav, if one finds chametz in his house on Yom Tov, he should invert a vessel over it so that it will not mistakenly come to eat it. You cover it. You have to put something on. Why can't you burn it?
Because maybe
The need of oichel nefesh, you need to eat, so you burn it.
So he that's after you to eat.
Right.
yeah, to get rid of it.
So he says you put a kli over it. Amarava, im shelek deshu, if it is chametz of hekdesh, einot tzorch, he doesn't even need to put a kli over it. Why? Because people are accustomed to separate themselves from it all year long. So he would not come to eat it. The only reason why I need to put a kli is so you don't come to eat it. But if it's hekdesh, anyway, you won't eat it. Because there's mivdal bedile, people are separate themselves from it. If it's a Builder says the name of Rav, if the chametz is of a Gentile, it's owned by a goy in one's house. Somehow you have chametz of a goy in your house. You need to make a mechitza 10 tefachim. You should make a partition for 10 tefachim high as a reminder not to eat it. V'im shelak teshu ein tzorich. And if it's ekdesh, he doesn't have to do it for the same reason we said before. My time of mivdal bedil in sheminei. People are accustomed to separate themselves from it all year long. One who sets out to sea, he goes traveling in the sea. And one who lives in a caravan for a distant destination. If he does so before 30 days prior to Pesach, he is not obligated to dispose of his chametz. Within 30 days, he is obligated to dispose of it. So before 30 days, he is not obligated. Within 30 days, he is obligated to dispose of it. When did we say that within 30 days he has to dispose? When he doesn't plan on coming back. But when he plans on coming back, but when he doesn't plan, he doesn't plan on coming back, he doesn't have to dispose of it. I guess that's what we call tzeit al haderech. Tzeit al haderech means your food for the way. Okay, you go on a trip, let's say if you would go on a cruise, it doesn't have kosher food, so you take with you a lot of food, and the cruise starts from let's say for 3 months or a month, so you would need the food for after Pesach. So if I would tell you to dispose the chametz on Pesach, what are you going to eat after Pesach?
you buy again.
If you're dealing with somebody on the sea or a caravan, not necessarily has access to food.
If I go back to Muncie more than 30 days, now I'm asking a halacha question. If I go back to Muncie more than 30 days before Pesach, and I have chametz in the house here, I don't have
To
to.
do bedikas chametz.
I don't have to do it.
Yeah. But I think in yourself to nullify it.
Yes, I just
Yeah.
sell the apartment.
Yeah. Amar li Rava, so Rava says, "Ve'in daita lachzor afilu b'rosh Hashanah nami." But if he intends to return during Pesach, he should be obligated to destroy the chametz even if he left from the time of Rosh Hashanah. Question mark. When he returns, the chametz will become accessible to him. At that point, should he have forgotten to nullify the chametz? But interesting. So is it? From my understanding was that he's taking the chametz with him. Over here it says that he's not taking it with him. So before 30 days he doesn't have to do, according to this. Within 30 days he needs to. But over here it doesn't even say, speaking about bedikas chametz, speaking about disposing it. So the issue is that if he's returning, he has to get rid of it. And if he's returning, afilu Rosh Hashanah, meaning he's living Rosh Hashanah, and he plans on returning within 30 days of Pesach, you say he would have to destroy it also? Question mark. So Rava therefore offers an alternate elaboration of the ruling of Rabbi Yehuda in the name of Rava. Elam Rava. Rava said, that which you said before 30 days prior to Pesach is not obligated to dispose of the chametz. Was stated only when he does not intend to return during Pesach. But if he does intend to return during Pesach, even if you plan on coming back on Pesach, you have to get rid of the chametz to make sure that when you come home you don't have chametz in your possession. Vaz the Rav Tamein, Rav follows his own reasoning. The Omar Rav someone who makes his home a storehouse. He fills his house with produce, piling it on top of his chametz. Before 30 days prior to Pesach, if he does so before 30 days before Pesach, he's not obligated to dispose of the chametz. But if he does it within 30 days, he's obligated to dispose of it. And this leniency regarding the period before 30 days prior to Pesach also was stated only when he does not intend to clear it out of the house on Pesach and cause the chametz to become exposed. But if he intends to clear it out, even if he returns into his storehouse before the 30 days, he is obligated to dispose of the chametz.
Rabbi, why they came up with 30 days? Why it's not 20 or 10 days?
The Gemara is asking it now. The Gemara is asking you a question. Right, these 30 days, why? What's the purpose of the 30 days? We inquire into and expound the laws of Pesach for 30 days prior to Pesach in order to familiarize himself with its laws. So there's a concept of 30 days to get yourself ready to the Yom Tov. Rabbi Gamliel says no, actually 2 weeks suffice. According to the Tanakama, during the 30 days prior to Pesach, one must concern himself with his Pesach obligations. My time of the Tanakama, what is the reason of the Tanakama? Why is he insisting on 30 days? For indeed Moshe was standing on the first Pesach offering, the 14th of Nisan, Umazir al Pesach Sheni. When is Pesach Sheni? Exactly 30 days after Pesach. Yud Daled Iyar. So, Shenemar v'yasu Israel Pesach moyader, children of Israel made the Pesach offering in its appointed time. And then they had the famous story that there were men who had been contaminated by a human corpse, and Moshe proceeded to explain that they could sacrifice a Pesach Sheni 30 days later. And this only came after they complained, why should we be deficient? Why should we miss out just because we are Tameh? We still want to have Pesach. So he went to Hashem and told him, make Pesach Sheni. The Rebbe came up, the Rebbe said, the Shtokim Farfallen, that it's never too late. You see, there's always a second chance, right? So Shin Gamliel Omalach, I did the Eire B'milah de Fischa. Once Moshe was discussing the topic of Pesach offering, Masiklu L'chol Milah de Pesach, he concluded telling to them all the matters of Pesach, even those that would not apply for another month. I did Eire B'milah de Pesach, Masiklu L'chol Milah de Pesach.
Sorry, the Pesach Sheni. When did they? So they started discussing right away when it was like Erev Pesach.
According to one opinion, because we have two opinions. You have 30 days of Tanna Kama,
Right.
and we have Rabbi Shin Gamliel 2 weeks. So we have a proof. It's 30 days because Moshe Rabbeinu is speaking about Pesach Sheni already in Pesach Rishon. So Rabbi Shin Gamliel, what is he going to say? So he says, no, it's not a proof that you have to speak about it 30 days. It's Moshe Rabbeinu did speak about it on the 14th of Nisan, about Pesach Sheni, but he only spoke because he was busy speaking about Pesach, so he also told them about Pesach Sheni. But it doesn't indicate that you have to do it 30 days before. 2 weeks would do it also. You see what, that's the answer of Rabbi Shin Gamliel, because he has to defend his position because he says 2 weeks. Why 2 weeks? Here's a proof that 30 days before Pesach, Moshe Rabbeinu is speaking about Pesach Sheni. He says now he was already in the subject. He was dealing with the subject, so he mentioned Pesach Sheni. If you read
He threw it in.
he threw it in. If you look at the Shulchan Aruch and the laws of Pesach, at the end of the laws of Pesach, you'll find also about Pesach Sheni.
Rabbi, if you're Tamei, you're not allowed to bring this Korban on Pesach. You are allowed, no?
No.
So you stay out?
You can participate in the Chabura. You can participate in eating korban. How can you eat a korban in state of tumah?
You don't
Listen,
eat, but
Tamei,
you
not-
pay,
It doesn't help. The whole idea is to partake of the korban.
even if I pay, I give to someone, go there, say my name. I don't know.
It doesn't work that way. Chabura means that you are part of the group. Mechubar, you are one with them.
It's like you pay someone to put tefillin on for you that day because you.
Yeah. But you can pay for someone to study Torah for you, even if it's not the same, but
You pay. How much you pay?
I don't know.
Maybe I'll stay here.
Rabbis, you can pay for
You
someone
suck as a
for
bull.
Pray Kaddish. If you miss the tefillah, you can pay. So there's some situations you can pay.
It seems like more of like tshuva. This payment is tshuva, not necessarily.
You suck as a bull.
The Rebbe said that sometimes he gave, for example, a guy said that, do tshuva, but he was saying his kids were not, did not come to this world his wife didn't go to the mikvah and all these things. He said, well, what can I do now? It's done. Like, it's over. So the Rebbe told him to influence other people to do the mitzvah of Taras Mishpacha, for example. I'm using, this is the example I heard, but I'm sure it can apply to other things. If someone did not put tefillin, and now he's encouraging other people to put tefillin, so due to him, now other people are putting tefillin, it's somewhat atones for what was done, rectifies for what he didn't do. So that might be a way. Beside of himself changing his ways, is to now try to influence other people.
My understanding, my first two kids were born before we were from, so it was without the Harsh Mishpacha. But then, when we heard about it, learned about it,
Right, but it says,
so my understanding was that retroactively somehow those kids are born with that benefit.
So how you can impart that benefit to them, even though they didn't have it? So one of the ways is
Retroactive.
yeah,
What's really sad is like,
is influencing other people to do that mitzvah.
that.
Rabbi, remember we spoke about Maradona?
You know, it's God for
Good morning.
What?
Maradona, we spoke about Maradona.
Yes.
He died.
No, Shem Rashayim Merkav.
Look at the,
Is the name of the wicked shall rot.
He died yesterday. He saw
Zchutot
Maradona.
again ba'ado. You say
We were speaking last week about Maradona.
Yeah, he died.
He's dead. He died yesterday.
Yeah.
so. I said Zchutot again ba'ado. Zchutot again ba'ado.
oh yeah?
לא, כדור שלו, ברגע שלו תגיד בעדו,
Argentinian guy.
אתה יודע מה זה, הוא עשה כל כך סמים הרבה, עשה הרבה כסף.
Why did he die from samim? From
He
drugs?
asked
Of course.
He
What
put it
else?
before he
For COVID.
All his COVID instead. They must have COVID instead of סמים.
God forbid, you know, this whole thing was a shutdown, as if God forbid you had to bury somebody and then you couldn't stay cottage for them because all the shuls were closed. That would bother a person. Not to say cottage for your,
1 million people went to the streets yesterday in Argentina. 1 million people. Because the guy is very talented in soccer. And a big rabbi, nobody knows. 10 guys goes there to.
What happened? People didn't sleep.
It shows you this is a
no,
real
see,
sector.
see,
Yeah,
for
Well,
millions of people.
You know how to kick a
People
ball?
went to the center.
Really
The
well, you know how to
streets,
kick a
the
ball?
streets.
you know
And
what
go
it is?
ahead.
To mourn.
See,
mourn for
they were potter from
Because it's
social
talent.
distancing because it
Talent
was
in
him.
soccer.
But if it was a rabbi, it wouldn't be
He was not
potter.
such a good player.
No, he was
Of
good.
course.
So,
What's your question?
There's no question.
No, Rabbi passed away. There was also
You
Lavdil.
know, when Rabbi Feinstein
But the shekel is always bigger than the
they
truth.
were all
Also-
breaking the law to go to his
Ronaldo
rabbi.
missed
Yeah, also-
missed
That's
it,
right.
and that's
We
all.
made
Also-
it
also.
last week.
Yeah, I
It was
said-
7,000.
I loved it.
It was great.
So my time of Rav Shin Gamliel. What is the reason of Rav Shin Gamliel who says that one should expound the laws of Pesach 2 weeks before, or in general a Yom Tov 2 weeks before? Because Moshe was standing on Rosh Chodesh, the 1st of Nisan. So the 1st of Nisan is 2 weeks. Umazer al Pesach was exhorting the Jews, I guess warning the Jews regarding the Pesach offering that was to be brought 2 weeks later, on the 14th. Shenema, this month shall be for you the beginning of month. It is written, speak to the entire assembly of Israel, saying, on the 10th of this month, they shall take for themselves each man a lamb for a father's house, etc. And the section goes on to describe the laws of Pesach applicable on the 14th of Nisan, meaning this is the original commandment. When Moshe Rabbeinu told the Jews to do it in Mitzrayim, that was the biggest Mesilas Nefesh, where they took a lamb, which was the idolatry of Mitzrayim, tied to their bed for 4 days, and then on the 14th they made a big barbecue. How do you know that Moshe was speaking Rosh Chodesh? It says, perhaps he was standing on the 4th or 5th of the month. It can be derived from here. Hashem spoke to Moshe in the wilderness of Sinai in the 2nd year, in the 1st month. Bashana Hashenis, 2nd year when they left Mitzrayim, B'chodesh Horishon. Uchsiv, Vayasu Bnei Yisrael Pesach v'Moed. Right after it says the children of Israel shall make the Pesach in its appointed time. They made it 2 weeks later. So Hachanami, thank you. Hachanami Mimai Deveresh Yachakoi. Here also, how do you know that Moshe was standing on Rosh Chodesh? Maybe it was the fourth or the fifth day of the month. How do we know that it was the beginning of the month? Dilma barbo be'acho v'chamishu be'acho kai. Amar Nachum bar Yitzchak osyo midbar mi midbar. Wilderness in the verse is derived from the term wilderness in another verse. Ksiv hacho midbar Sinai. It is written here in the wilderness of Sinai. It is written, and Hashem spoke to Moshe in the wilderness of Sinai. In the tent of meeting, or Moed, on the first of the second month, just as there the verse refers to Rosh Chodesh, so here it refers to Rosh Chodesh. So the verse in the beginning, it says number 10, in the beginning of Numbers, states explicitly the first of the month. We can therefore derive through the Gezer Shava that the verse referring to the Pesach also occurred on the first of the month, 2 weeks before the sacrifice, 2 weeks before Korban Pesach. So here's a proof to Rabban Gamliel that Moshe Rabbeinu is speaking 2 weeks before, not 30 days. So he's teaching them the laws of the Yom Tov 2 weeks before the Yom Tov, not 30 days before the Yom Tov. Halachically, it says 30 days, but Rabban Gamliel has a support to his position.
Was this the first time he talked about the laws?
It was also the second time. It says Bashona Hashenis. Bashona Hashenis is the second year after, because we know that the first time was they're in Mitzrayim, and then it says Vaydaber Hashem speaks to Moshe in Midbar Sinai Bashona Hashenis, second year, B'chodesh Rishon, the first month, which is the month of Nisan.
Till the second year, because first year they got the Matan Torah, then they had the Egel, then Yom Kippur they said to build the Mishkan. And then next year they had the.
It actually says that Jews did not celebrate Pesach in the Midbar only the first year.
The first year they were, but then how could they bring Korban Pesach the first year? They couldn't bring first year the Korban Pesach.
In Mitzrayim, they didn't bring it. They did the Korban Pesach Chabura and they ate it.
Okay,
and I think they did it one more year in the Midbar, and then they didn't do it anymore.
Because then they had a whole problem about
no, because the commandment says, let's say so Mitzrayim, when they go to Mitzrayim.
So during this 40 years, they didn't
do Pesach.
It
says that they were not commanded to do it, and it's actually in a way. It was seen in a negative light that the Jews didn't demand it. They said, "Oh, we did it. Why don't we continue it?" It should have been on. Hashem wanted it to be their initiative.
Avram Avinu did it.
Right.
Right. He was. Look at these generations later.
It says that even when Yeshua brought the Jews into the land, he had to circumcise them. A lot of them were not circumcised.
Because they were afraid of circumcision.
They were on the go. They were not allowed to.
Right. There you can understand.
Yeah.
You're traveling. But if you're traveling on Pesach.
There was traveling that they camped for 14 years. They didn't move. But they didn't know.
Yeah, they didn't know. Right.
See, they did the Pekuach Nefesh thing then.
Anyways,
it
says.
No, we're doing it serious now.
It says v'nichtav b'reish hachodesh harishon.
Right.
But let the Torah write the incident of the first month first, v'ada nichtav dechodesh sheni, and then tell us about the second month. Why is the order is reversed? You're first speaking about the second month, and then you're speaking about the first month. It says in number 11, the incident about the Pesach offering preceded the census of the Jews by 1 month. Why then does the story about the census begin the book of Numbers? For the book of Numbers speaks about the counting of the Jews, and then he tells us about something that happened a month before, which was Pesach. So, Amar Rabbi Menashe bar Tachlifa Mishmei Derav, V'zot omeret ein mukdam muchar v'Torah. This comes to tell us there is no chronological order to the Torah. Meaning, the certain incident in the Torah, just because you see them written first, it does not mean that it happened in that order. Many things did not happen exactly in the order that you see them in the Torah. This means there is no mukdam u'meuchar b'Torah. I think we see it also with the Chet HaEgel and the giving of the Torah. It speaks about Chet HaEgel before the giving of the Torah, even though it happened after the giving of the Luchos. So, Amar Rav Papa, Amar Rav B'Trei Yonah, this was said only concerning Psukim in two different passages. Aval B'chad Inyana, but concerning the verse written in one passage, Mai de Mukdam Mukdam, Mai de Mucha Mucha. Whatever is written earlier occurred earlier, and that which is written later is occurred later. If you don't say it, Klal Uprat. What about the laws that we have, the 13 laws, 13 principles associated with the learning of Talmud, or in general principles in Torah? When there is a generalization and a specification, you have klal and prat. Ein b'klal ela mashiv prat. The generalization contains nothing more than the prat, than the specification. How can we utilize that rule? Dilma prat uchlalu. Perhaps it is actually prat, specification, and a generalization. And you don't have to say one that has the klal has only what the prat has. But two, furthermore, prat uchlalu, regarding the rule when there is a specification and then a generalization. First have the prat and then you have the klal. Na'asar klal musaf al prat. The generalization serves to an addition to the specification. Dilma klal ufratu. Perhaps it is actually klal, generalization, and a prat, specification. Obviously, then the pasuk of a single passage in the Torah can be presumed to be written in chronological order. One pasuk is for sure chronological order. That's the point that they are making. So there's no mukdam u'meuchar when one pasuk over here, the second pasuk is to follow. But on the same pasuk there is mukdam u'meuchar. If so, even regarding two passages, we should also say that there must be chronological order. This is satisfactory according to the one who says that a generalization and specification whose components are distant from one another are not written adjacent to one another, meaning they are far from each other. And we do not extend as a generalization and specification, for we can very well say that it is precisely because the relevant verses were not necessarily written in chronological order that we do not make such an exposition. But according to the one who says that we do expound it, what is there to say? How can we be sure that which pasuk was stated first? Even according to the one who says that we do expound a generalization and specification whose components are distant, even though they are far from each other, we're still saying this is a klal and this is a prat. But that's only bechad inyana when it's speaking about the same inyan. That refers only to verses found in one passage. In that case, if the relevant verses are distant, for example, another verse intervenes between them, we expound them as generalization and specification. But regarding verses found in two different passages, even according to this view, ein donim, we do not expound a generalization specification. Abu Uda said in the name of Rav, one who searches for chametz must nullify immediately afterwards. That's why it's actually in halacha we do b'dikas chametz, and after b'dikas chametz we do bitul chametz. We say kol chamira v'chamira adika b'shusei. My time. Well, why is it? Why do you have to nullify? You already checked for chametz. There is no chametz. So what's to nullify?
Just in case if we missed it, we didn't see it,
so the
that will be mivatel.
So the Gemara says maybe pirurin, maybe there is crumbs. that surely escaped his attention. Halo chashiva, they're not significant. You don't even have to nullify them. They're not chashivim. They're not important. You don't have to nullify the people. Because it's not ra'ui la'achila. It's not something, there's a law in Pesach.
Consider you have hummus in the house.
No. There's a law in Pesach that something that's not ra'ui, it's not something that you can eat. You eating a crumb is not doing anything. Actually, even if you ate a crumb, you do not violate. There's a certain amount. Yeah, but it's not considered anything. It's like dust. It's a pirul. It's a little tiny thing. You don't even have to nullify. Lo chashiva. It's not significant. He's not liable for having them in his house, even if he does not nullify them. So if I'm not liable, why do I care for it? I don't even have to.
So why we see Rav Kanievsky? He was looking, saw in YouTube, standing at a table and doing with the, the thing that and
Yes.
behind the it's impossible to find chametz there. So why is doing this?
Because he's machmir. He's machmir to make sure that there's no chametz at all. We also machmir by nullifying the chametz. Why do we nullify chametz that doesn't exist? Maybe a crumb.
It's another level of machmir.
Yeah, of course. In the laws of Pesach, there's no end to the chumras. Each one takes it to his whatever his custom was, his parents, his grandparents, whatever they do.
His friend, his YouTube video, you get all these
Right.
humors. For Pesach, it's nuts.
The Rebbe once says, I didn't hear him saying it, I heard it from someone else who said that the Rebbe once said that dust is not chametz and your wife is not a slave.
Sorry.
Right? Dust is not chametz. People go crazy. They're doing spring cleaning,
Right.
and it's blaming it on Pesach. But dust is not chametz and your wife is not a slave.
You clean, that's it.
Yeah. So, but in Hasidus, I told you, looks at the search for chametz as something much deeper. That we're looking inside to try to get rid of any kind of schmutz, any kind of negativity, any kind of arrogance.
On every level.
So that's a very massive. I mean, it's easy to find, but there's two types of clippers. There's the thick one and the thin one. The thin one is a little bit harder to. Sometimes you need the oil on air. You need the light of the candle to see it. You need the magnifying glasses to see it, and also we have the concept of on one hand it says Yodea ish tzoras nafsho. The person knows his issues. He knows his shortcomings. But on the other hand, it says al kol pshoim techas ha'avod. For all the pshoim, all the negativity, the love, the self-love, would cover it up.
It's okay.
Listen, he's worse. Many excuses people have for justifying who they are and why not changing. Looking at someone else, saying he's worse. The point is that the search for chametz, the inner chametz, is not a simple thing to do, and that's why it requires a little bit more attention. So
we have to do this every day, not only before Pesach.
yeah, it's Pesach is the time that we have the power to do it. Meaning, why is it proper time? Because we are aided from above to get rid of the chametz, and it's also a special time where you cannot entertain any kind of chametz. That's already a violation to entertain chametz at the time of Pesach. It's, for example, a person that does not have bitul to Hashem on a regular day is bad. But the day that God took you out of Mitzrayim, took you from a state of being slave, and if not for taking you, you'll still be slave, as we say in our God, that you, your father, will all be slave. And on that day, not having chametz, meaning having gaiva and saying, I have created myself, like Paul said, it's a worse of. So Pesach is a time of bitul, and you cannot. You say if chametz is so bad, it's the same question. If chametz is so bad, why are we allowed to eat it after Pesach? We should never eat chametz.
Yeah,
Right?
I have that question.
That's the question. So it says because after Pesach we can handle the chametz, we can deal with it. But during Pesach you cannot entertain whatsoever.
Wow.
Should not be. And I was thinking why. Because time of Pesach is that time that Hashem took us out of Mitzrayim. And at that time you're going to be, you'll have pride, you'll have ego.
So we should not.
It's the worst time to have it.
Rabbi, we should not eat also.
Like I'll give you $1 million. Imagine I give you $1 million, and you go out and you write books on how you're a self-made millionaire. So if you do it 5 years later when I'm not around, I'm in a different country, it's not so bad. But do it in front of my face, making a
public display.
making a conference, and you start telling them how to become a millionaire when I gave it to you for nothing.
No, I can explain it. The laws of attraction. He's so mean. This guy, he deserves it. The guy with the planes you talk about.
You know, God forbid that.
You get the idea.
So,
The guy who did the third plane, right?
so if let's say God forbid,
You get the idea.
I wrote the book already. Ready to publish it.
if
You
Biden,
give me the check,
Waiting for
right?
you.
if Biden
I did my
becomes
part.
president,
God
right?
forbid.
If Biden becomes president
Amen.
with a vaccine,
You, God
wait,
forbid.
with a vaccine, and it works, it's his vaccine. He did it. If it's no good for whatever reason, it's Trump's vaccine.
Yeah.
Okay, that's
Obviously,
Yeah.
for sure, it's bad as Trump. If it's good to somebody else.
There's also the laws of attraction.
So we know for sure 100% he's out or not yet?
No, we don't know. No,
It's
I'm just giving a hypothetical. Not,
The
not,
process is still going.
I'm not giving.
Well, it's
you
a
He's
famous-
gonna go for all year now.
No.
But it's a
Yeah,
famous
that's
thing that success has partners and failure is like in Hebrew they say that success you have partners
Right.
to success, but
you
failure
are your own.
it's like orphaned. You're by yourself. You're alone. You fail, you're by yourself. If you succeed, oh, I knew him. I helped him. I gave him advice.
I once,
I
I once
did it.
passed him in the street.
I always tell him.
But if
do
somebody
it.
fails, nobody knows him. He's a loser. This I'm
gone.
never.
I told him not to do that.
Yeah. Then
He
listen.
would listen to me.
Rabbi, why chametz makes us bad only these days?
Chametz makes you bad all year long.
Right.
Yeah.
All year
We
long.
have to remember every day we go.
Right.
when the
That's
chametz
why
is.
we read in the Shema every day about the Tziat
Yes, we
Mitzrayim.
should not eat chametz every day.
And you're saying the question that I asked you.
Yeah.
But David, I don't think it's really
Success
hard.
has partners. Of course
Yeah.
it's
It's just for the cleansing of the Passover what happened, and we're trying to avoid things that didn't happen in Passover.
No, he's saying if Chametz represent Gava.
Right.
So what? If Chametz represent Gava, right? Tofeach, it rises.
Right.
What Gava is, you are this much, but you're making yourself this much. Meaning you're making yourself more than you really.
Right.
You're giving people the impression that you're a big shot or whatever it is. So, right? Why are we allowed to have chametz all year? We should be afraid of chametz. And my answer is, you're right. All year you should be afraid of chametz, meaning all year long you should worry about gava, because it says Hashem tells you, I'm not able to be with him in the same place. A person has gava, he is distancing Hashem from himself. So obviously you have to worry about chametz, about tofech, about things that rise. But physically, eating matzah, a simple answer is that Hashem commanded you to eat matzah on that week. Hashem does not want to deprive us from all the good donuts and all the healthy, from all the good things. From all the good things, He doesn't want to deprive you from these things, but He wants you for 1 week to carry that mindset for the whole year, to worry about chametz, inner chametz, to worry about things that needs to be burnt, needs to be nullified and burnt.
And then distance yourself
Yeah.
from.
And no, don't even allow it to be deposited in your possession.
Right. That's why I didn't accept the million.
So if a guy wants to park his Rolls Royce in my driveway,
Yeah, right.
With
right?
chametz.
So if you deposit your Rolls Royce in my driveway, so now I feel better about myself because I walk outside and my neighbors look and they say, "Wow, this guy, a Rolls
Oh, he's
Royce."
a rich man.
So it's not mine, but I'm benefiting from it's the same idea. It's like he's depositing chametz in my house. Anyhow, Amar Yehuda Amar Rav, Abodek tzarich sheyevatel. One who searches for chametz must notify immediately afterwards. My timer. We said, if you will answer me that I need to nullify the chametz because maybe some crumbs are left, it's not considered significant. And if you will answer me that since they are guarded along with the rest of the house, they are contained in the house, and therefore they are considered important, significant, Vatanya. So Feitanim, figs remaining on the trees at the end of the fig harvest, and he who is guarding his field because of the grapes that are still growing, or regarding unripened grapes remaining on the vines at the end of the grape harvest, and a person is guarding his field because of the squash plants and the gourd vines that are still growing. So he has an interest in the field to guard it. Bisman shebal bait makpid aleim, in a situation where the householder is particular about the remaining figs or grapes, asur mishum gezel, they are prohibited on account of stealing. So you're not allowed to take those remaining grapes or figs. Why? Because he still cares about them. And they're still subject to the requirement of Maisa. But if the householder is not particular about them, you are permitted on account of stealing, meaning you're allowed to come and take those remaining figs and remaining
But then that's
grapes.
not stealing.
It's not stealing. Mutorin mishum gezer. Ufturin mishum Maisa, and he doesn't have to give Maisa. So why they're telling it to us? It's saying that although it's if it's guarded, it could be a problem. And since it's guarded, therefore you have to notify the chametz. Meaning the crumbs are guarded. And if they're guarded, it means that they have some kind of significance, and therefore you have to notify the chametz.
If you don't care,
If you don't care, it wouldn't be a problem. It's one of the ways to destroy chametz is it's called zerchon laruach, is throwing them in the wind, and the wind carries it. So, in other words, you're taking it out of your possession. But if it's remaining in your house, and no one can really enter your house without permission, right? So that's meaning there's some kinds of significance to it. Therefore, that's one argument telling you why we should still nullify the chametz after you check for chametz.
Isn't the Gemara saying he's not protecting the old figs?
If he's not,
he's protecting the new grapes. He doesn't care about those. There's a few and insignificant.
Then you're allowed to take them. Then someone from the outside.
In your house, you have. Look, I took all the big stuff. It's gone. The little stuff, that's not for me.
But your house is guarded. That's the problem.
So the field is guarded, but the field is guarded for the grapes, not for the figs.
No. He gave two examples: figs and or grapes. Not necessarily.
No, but I'm saying,
if you're guarding it for someone else, for something else, there was no. It didn't give that example. It said if you have remaining figs or remaining. That's how I understood it. Remaining figs or remaining grapes. If you're guarding it, you're not allowed to take it. Someone else is not allowed to take it, and he's liable for my son. If they're not guarded, just give you two examples, not one and then the other. You watching for the other. That's an interesting case which you raising.
Look, I got new grapes. This is what I'm watching. The figs, we already did that harvest. It's something that's incidental to the guarding. It's incidental to it. The guarding.
No, that would probably be an issue because the grapes cannot be together with anything else. Right?
Okay, so cucumbers and gourds, those things are coming in nice.
Yeah, you still have to have distance. You still have to have a certain amount of space. Yeah.
But okay.
The idea is like this. Think of it this way.
Yes, please.
Anything that he guards, you cannot take, and the owner is obligated to give Maisa. And if you're guarding it, it shows that it's significant to you. So in your house, if you're going to say that the crumbs are in one room and he doesn't guard that room, yeah, you're right. He doesn't have to notify, then it's not significant. But if he guards that house and the crumbs are there, that shows some kind of significance, and therefore he needs to notify them. Yeah. But the case you're raising is interesting, where it's like certain part of it is important, some part is not, and then you're not sure whether maybe the Gemara will raise it, but anyhow, the reason why we actually notify the chametz is not because of the significant or not of the crumbs. Everyone agrees that it's not significant. The reason why you're nullifying it, because maybe you will find a nice 7-layer cake on Pesach, and you wouldn't be able to stop yourself, and you will attack it.
Chocolate especially.
And his mind will be on it.
Obviously.
It will be significant in his eyes, and he will hesitate to destroy it. And it doesn't really say he will attack it. It says he will hesitate to destroy it.
Right.
And if he does not nullify all chametz in his possession, he will be liable in such a case.
Right.
So therefore, you shouldn't have any surprises. You nullify the chametz, and that's it.
That's it.
Rabbi, if a guy come to your house during Pesach with a pizza,
We had this already.
and no, but you don't see him coming in. He comes with your son, and now he's in his room eating pizza. What are you gonna do?
Let him finish it.
Let
So
him-
then he
for-
destroys
you
the
res-
chametz.
Yeah, but you
He-
respect him. You respect him. You don't say, "You go out with this from the house."
No, so what you do is the Gemara gave us the option. He says, you know what? The room that the guy is in is designated for him. That's his room. And therefore, it's not in your house. It's considered in a way in his possession. Like the guy has chametz in his possession.
You
That's
don't
not
say,
your house.
never say, like, "Please don't eat here. Go outside."
If you can, I would say it. But if I cannot,
He's going to feel bad. He's going to feel bad.
no. You,
Explain to him it's a holiday and we don't keep.
If he's going to feel bad, you do or
No,
not?
it's a kid. Take him outside. Say, listen, it's
18 years old. 18 years. It's not a kid.
He should understand, I think. Rabbi, I think we should understand that it's a holiday that we don't do bread inside the house. I respect he should understand and take the bread out.
yeah, it depends what the situation. If
He's the
but
guy who
obviously
wants his
you
teeth.
try, yeah, but you obviously should try to keep chametz out of your house as much as you can. But when he finds it, let him nullify it then. So the Gemara says, why should he nullify it beforehand? Let him nullify. If he does find chametz, so you can do bitul chametz. You can say kol chamira v'chamia. If you find chametz, why should he do it in the beginning? So the Gemara answers, Dilma mashkachet lalevatar isur. Perhaps he will find it after the time of its prohibition, meaning when it's already Pesach. V'la b'shud ekayim, when it is not legally in his possession. V'lo matzim mevatel, and he will no longer be able to nullify it. The Amar Rabbi Elazar says, Shnei dvarim einu b'shus shel adam. Two things that are actually not legally in a person's possession. V'ason hakos kilu b'shus. But scripture, they're not legal in your possession, but the pasuk, the scripture, the Torah treats them as though they are in his possession. Ve'eluem, bo b'shus harabim. If you're making if you're digging a pit in b'shus harabim, in a public domain. If you imagine you make a pit in the middle of 441. You come at 2 o'clock in the morning, nobody sees, and you make a pit. It's reshus harabim, it's not yours. But the Torah considers it, and somebody gets hurt, you're liable, because the Torah considered this pit to belong to you. You're responsible for this pit. Even though it's reshus harabim. You can argue, well, it's not my place.
You did.
Yeah. Ke'ilu, that's what it means. The Torah made it as if it's your reshut, and you're going to be responsible. Another thing is chametz after the 6th hour on the day before Pesach. Since the chametz is not in his possession at that time, he has no power to nullify it. He doesn't see it. He doesn't know about it. The chametz must therefore be nullified before it becomes prohibited. And when I ask why the nullification must take place at the time of the search on the night before Pesach, let's nullify let's nullify the chametz by the 5th hour or the 6th hour on the 14th on the day, right before the biur chametz. Since the 4th or 5th hour is not the time of prohibition, nor it is the time of disposal, perhaps it will act negligently. It will be negligent and nullify it, not nullify it. That's 35. That is, he will forget to nullify the chametz because there is nothing to remind him to do so. The sages therefore required a person to nullify his chametz while he is involved in the search the night before. We'll continue, God willing, tomorrow. Bruchim to you. Now we'll learn Chassidut.
My wife said,
Chassidut.